Yeah, sometimes you can be in the right place at the right time. We were particularly bold with our strategy. We saw gold prices increasing, with equity prices not increasing. We believed that Mexico, with its long history of mining, was always going to be a country that you could build and operate mines in. So when other groups were potentially scared of the market or potentially scared of investing in Mexico, we saw massive opportunity. And so we acquired Argonaut Gold's Mexican portfolio in in a sale that, distressed isn't quite the right word, but Argonaut was very keen to sell everything to complete the closure of the sale of their Canadian business, US business, and Mexican businesses. So we were in the right spot at the right time, and we were able to pay what will be a $5 million acquisition price for two producing mines that for some people might be coming to the end of their mine life, but for us just hadn't been well invested.
The gold price is still rising, but gold mining stocks are not really that much in a hype right now. We can see first movements, which is a good first indicator, but I think there is more to come. So this is now the time to do due diligence, and therefore we're talking to interesting companies that could be your next potential investment opportunity. And today with me is Charles Funk. He is the founding CEO of Helio Star Metals, a company based in Canada with assets, actually producing assets in Mexico. Charles, thank you very much for your time. It's great having you, and I'm really looking forward to our interview.
Thank you. I'm calling you from warm, sunny Mexico, heading out to the mine site today.
Great, great. So let's talk a little bit about the company. Maybe we can start a little bit by a general overview, right? I think you started with one project and you started to develop it, and then you had another opportunity or chance to buy a couple of producing assets. So it's a very complex story if you see it at first, but it's very easy if you start telling the story. So please go ahead and pitch us the story here.
Yeah, so Heliostar is 4 years old. We founded the company with a view to building a mid-tier gold producer. And so in many ways, the last tough years have been a huge blessing because it's allowed us to go and buy the portfolio that we think is going to be worth a lot more as we generate significantly more production. We started by buying a project called Anapola, a development project that's extremely high-grade gold in southern Mexico. And then a few months ago, we were able to make another big step, buying two operating assets, 3.5 million ounces of gold plus Serra de Gaia, another project that needs an updated report before we can add them together. But a lot of gold production and a growth profile that we think we can generate 150,000 ounces a year from in the near term.
So maybe we start and dig in a little bit deeper, first of all, with your Anapola project, because this is the one you bought first and you've communicated first. You're not in production there, but tell us what makes Anapola so special.
Yeah, very simply, width and grade, and that means profitability. So we bought Anapola that's had over $100 million spent in it. It was bought for over $100 million in 2015. And incredibly, we bought it for $10 million with some contingent payments that have since been cancelled with the subsequent acquisition. And we bought it because we think it makes a lovely high-grade underground. There's a core zone about 60 meters wide that averages nearly 5.5 grams per ton gold. That's very high margin material. It's shallow, it's relatively low mining cost, but very high grade. And we've been spending the last 12 months really rechanging it and focusing to underground only. And our view is to get to a construction decision at the end of next year that'll allow us to build Anapola.
Mm-hmm. And give us a little bit of numbers here. Do we know the resource already? Do we know the grade? And can you tell us about something about the cost? And how long would it take to bring this asset into production?
Yeah, so in November last year, we put out the first underground only focused resource, over 700,000 ounces at nearly 7 grams per ton in the M&I category, another nearly 450 at slightly lower grade in the M&I category. Cumulatively, they're over 1 million ounces. We think we could grow the deposit to 1.5 million ounces total. We're drilling at the moment. We'll have extra drill results coming shortly where we think we can expand this really spectacular high-grade panel at the center of the deposit. In terms of economics, we propose to build the project in two steps. We'll have the feasibility completed at the end of next year that will lay this out. But step one, we're talking in the ballpark of $50 million of CapEx. So a very small CapEx given how much money's been spent on this project to produce about 50,000 ounces of production a year. And then we'll step that up to 100,000 ounces by doubling the capacity at a slightly later date, maybe 12 to 18 months later. We're doing that to keep the CapEx particularly manageable, to generate free cash flow out of the project that helps us build the second step. And we're way too early for guiding on what that AISC is, but we're talking about $100 a ton mining costs, and at this gold price, maybe $500 a ton. This is going to generate a significant amount of free cash flow early in this mine's life.
Great, that sounds really good. And when it comes to permitting, Mexico has a little bit of an issue. If we look back the past few years, there was talking about an open pit mining ban. You now switched the Anapola project to an underground mine anyway. But do you see any problems here, or are you fully permitted?
Yeah, so Anapola is a very interesting case. As you touched on, the previous president who left power approximately a month ago has not been a friend, or was not a friend of the mining industry. And thankfully, for people who watch Mexican stocks, the new president, you see Mexican stocks jumping on the fact that she's going to be a lot more friendly to particularly mining as a whole and open pit mining in particular. In the Anapola case specifically, it has an open pit mining permit. This was a purely technical decision. It wasn't a political decision to go underground. In short, it's lower capex, it makes more money in our mind, and it has a smaller environmental footprint. This is an elegant solution, a modern mining solution, which is why we bought Anapola in the first place. So we're going to build as an underground mine. We're going to update the permits early next year. We expect to have them in hand by the end of next year in parallel with the feasibility study that allows us to pull the trigger and build the mine. Step one will take 12 months to build. So we expect that we'll be in production at about 50,000 ounce a year run rate at the end of 2025. At the end of 2026. So just under 2 years from now in that first production step. We think as a company as a whole, and maybe it's a segue to our other assets, that we can be producing at 100,000 ounce a year run rate in 2 years.
All right, that sounds really, really good. Thank you very much. And as we already said, you have also bought different assets from Argonaut Mining, which was then bought by Alamos Gold. You had the opportunity to buy the Mexican assets out of this deal, and you're also close to closing the deal, I think by the end of this month. And we're talking about producing assets here, so let's talk a little bit more about what you just bought. That looks amazing to me.
Yeah, sometimes you can be in the right place at the right time. We were particularly bold with our strategy. We saw gold prices increasing, with equity prices not increasing. We believe that Mexico, with its long history of mining, was always going to be a country that you could build and operate mines in. So when other groups were potentially scared of the market or potentially scared of investing in Mexico, we saw massive opportunity. And so we acquired Argonaut Gold's Mexican portfolio in a sale that, distressed isn't quite the right word, but Argonaut was very keen to sell everything to complete the closure of the sale of their Canadian business, US business, and Mexican businesses. So we were in the right spot at the right time, and we were able to pay what will be a $5 million acquisition price for two producing mines that, for some people, might be coming to the end of their mine life, but for us just hadn't been well invested. So we've got production. We've got production at today's gold price from mid-July this year. We'll be able to talk about it all formally upon the closing at the end of this month. But we're a cash flow positive business with two operating mines, one called San Agustin in Durango, a second called La Colorada in Sonora. We aim to ramp those up, particularly at La Colorada. We found a low-grade stockpile that's going to add considerable production next year. And then we're going to restart the fully permitted pit and expand upon that. And from mid-next year, we think La Colorada can be a long mine life, producing about 50,000 ounces of gold a year on average, starting mid-next year. And so this portfolio is a lot better than I think people thought it was. It surprised us, even since we bought it, how good it is. We've got production today. We're going to grow that production next year, and then we're going to bring on the long mine life production at La Colorada and Anapola that take us to 100 and then 150,000 ounces of annual production.
Great. So just to get the story right here, you got access to two very good producing assets. Those are cash flow positive. You may think that they are at the end of their mine life, but you think you found the trigger basically to keep the mines running, if you want to tell it like this. This brings you cash flow. But on the other hand, you have the Anapola project, the one we talked earlier, which is the gem in the portfolio, if you like. And if you bring this one in production, then we're talking about totally different numbers. So you're basically financing your way for your main asset, if you like, right?
It's one of those classic stories of small dominoes tipping over bigger dominoes until we become, our long-term goal is to become a multi-billion-dollar gold business. So the smallest domino is the production today from the existing mines. The next domino is this low-grade stockpile that we can bring online next year that's new. We didn't realize it until a few months ago. It's a great opportunity at these gold prices to produce some significant cash flow. Then that tips over La Colorada at about 50,000 ounces, which tips over Anapola to 50 and then 100,000 ounces. So it's a great arc that doesn't need a lot of equity, that gives us cash flow positivity from today, and leads to us being a much more valuable company than we are today.
Yes, great. And it looks like someone else from Canada, a Canadian billion-dollar investor, has also the opinion that we're talking about a great story here. You just a couple of days ago announced that you got $6 million from Eric Sprott as an investor. That really means something, right? How did you get him into the story?
Yeah, I think the true benefit, everyone tells you to go and buy projects outside of the cycle, when the market sentiment's washed out. What no one tells you is that they won't give you any money to buy them. And so you need incredibly strong and investors with long foresight. And so we're fortunate that we've got a really strong share registry. We were able to raise a significant amount of capital, nearly $40 million over the last 18 months when it was difficult to raise money. Otherwise, we couldn't have put the portfolio together. And that is people like Eric Sprott, Franklin Templeton, Adrian Day's Europac fund that are major shareholders of our company. And then, I think we all know that Eric plays the long game on commodity prices. He loves the combination of ounces in the ground, production today to get exposure to the gold price, and exploration and resource growth upside. And very clearly, those three are on the agenda for Heliostar over the next 12 months. And so Eric offered us a financing at our 2-year high that just closed last week. He becomes our biggest shareholder. He's a very stable, long-term focused shareholder. So we love having him on the portfolio. And for people who have a nose for precious metal investments, Eric's got a pretty good lead on good projects that he thinks are going to get better and better as the gold price appreciates.
Very good, very good. And when we talk to investors, we always tell them, if you do your due diligence, you have to tick some boxes for the company, right? We talked about the jurisdiction, Mexico. In my opinion, it's a great place to be, and it's a little bit distressed. It was distressed, but now since the beginning of October, Claudia Scheinbaum has taken over. The Mexican assets in general got up a little bit again. We're still not seeing those open pit mining permits. We still don't really see the money flowing in at a high level, but we can see the interest from investors for Mexico is clearly rising. We also talked about your investor base, right? You have people like Eric Sprott with you, which is always great. We talked about your projects. You have a good exploration upside. You have cash flow already once the deal is finally complete. But we haven't touched base on you as a person, as the CEO, as the one being responsible for making shareholders money, right? Because we always tell the people you can have good ground, you can have ounces in the ground, but in the end you have a deal maker sitting in the chair, right? You're talking to people, you're making the contracts, you're making the decisions. So tell us a little bit more about Charles Funk. First of all, who are you and why are you the right guy to run this company? And secondly, do you have skin in the game? Meaning, do you have own money in your company? So are you on the investor side, if you like? Tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, it's a wide-ranging question. I live in Canada. I grew up in Australia and I'm a geologist by trade. I think I've said to a few people, my wife's Australian, but our kids are Canadian. It explains we've been there for the last 8 years, and it's been a wonderful opportunity for us as a family. I worked for big companies, Oxiana Oz Minerals that was bought by BHP, and then Newcrest that was recently bought by Newmont. And so I spent a lot of time cutting my teeth and traveling the world looking at projects, which was a wonderful education for 10 to 12 years. Late in that period, I started doing a lot of business development in the Americas for Newcrest and got to know Mexico. And when I decided to be a bit more entrepreneurial, I wanted to make some more money. I was impatient enough to have some ideas that I wanted to test in the business development and exploration space. I moved over to Canada because there was a bigger capital markets. I knew more people, and I thought that's where the opportunity lay. I worked for a prospect generator royalty company that's now Origin Royalties, $150 million, quite successful company on the back of some discoveries that I was fortunate to be involved with. I suspect the biggest success that people might know is I was the VPX for Vizsla Silver. So we were a very small company who made a significant silver discovery in Mexico. I was on the board until early last year. That was an incredibly successful period in my time. But ultimately, we wanted to go out and build a mid-tier producer. I think it's a proven business model that gets to a multi-billion-dollar valuation. It doesn't rely on exploration luck. Certainly helps, but you can do it by systematically doing deals. So my background is technical. I've been fortunate to be involved in a number of discoveries and successful acquisition deals. I pride ourselves on being conservative in our promises and delivering on them. We've built what I believe is a pretty solid team. Sorry, there's also the understatement there, an excellent team in Heliostar in terms of ability to operate mines, to do the studies, to raise the financings. We've recently added 2 new VP level positions that I think speak to that. So we're a technical team that's focused on projects first and foremost, but we're aggressive when we think the opportunity was there, like it was over the last 18 months. In terms of my investment, I founded Heliostar, so I was the first shareholder. At the time, I had very little in the way of money, so it was a huge outlay for me to put the initial capital into the company. Since then, as I touched on, Vizsla was a fairly successful period in the meantime. The thing that I've always liked is people who consistently and continually invest in the company. I have about 2 million shares of Heliostar, ultimate exposure to, I think, close to 5 million shares if I'm successful on performance milestones, etc. I have got them probably 50-50 initially on founding the company, and the rest on market buying at levels materially higher and materially lower than our current share price. I've bought $2,500 worth of shares every month for it must be coming up on 2 years. I kind of like that consistency, and I think it's a good way for me to turn my salary into additional exposure to the upside. And when you and I first met, we talked about, I think what matters even more than that is Heliostar is our team's reputation. We want to build a large gold company, and we have no other option but for Heliostar to succeed. So the combination of our personal investments and our reputation, it's our brand on the line to build this business. I think that's the only promise that I can make to shareholders about how committed we are to making Heliostar successful.
Great. No, I like it. If you got the motivation, you got everything you need to make this company a success. And this sounds really, really good. So to me, you're ticking all the boxes that we talked about. And I think this is great. But maybe help a little bit our investors. So we're coming to my last question, if you like. There would be, what would be your main 3 reasons to look into Heliostar maybe today and make an investment decision? So why should I buy the company? Your 3 main reasons.
Yeah, so I think the reason we all buy shares, we either build businesses or we buy stocks, is we want them to go up. So we think that if you buy a Heliostar share, that we can deliver a materially higher share price over the coming couple of years. And I think for me, the catalysts are from November to January that really drive that higher valuation for the company. And I won't talk about it, like clearly we're in a strong gold price environment. There's external factors, but I'll focus on what we can control internally. In the first of those is when the transaction closes at the beginning of November, we can demonstrate that these businesses are cash flow positive. We can definitively put out guidance and ASIC from mid-July to the end of this year. Then next year, we'll put out production guidance for 2025 in early January. And I think we might surprise people in the production that these assets can generate. People who knew them from Argonaut, I think, might be surprised about what we can produce over the coming 12 months. And then the next step is showing those economics. The classic way for people who deep dive into these projects to value them is to work out what's the cash flow coming from these mines, put a discount to today, and then put a discount because they're not developed. And if you look at our peers, they're trading at materially higher share prices for these assets because this transaction's new and because until it closes, we can't answer your questions directly. So look for the demonstration that our assets are cash flow positive, look for our guidance next year, and then look for the economics from these resources and drill results that I think demonstrate that if we deliver next year, our company is worth significantly more than it is today.
I think this is a statement, Charles. So I take you by the word. Thank you very much for introducing Heliostar to us, and we will have definitely more interviews to dig in a little bit deeper as soon as you can talk about all the details. Is there anything else you would like to tell our German investor base at the end?
No, I think to close out, as well as delivering on all these development projects, there's a great set of drill results. Now, the potential for drill results to be coming. Drill results from our Anapola project, drill results from the Colorado over the next few months as well. So we're not just going to deliver on production and production growth. We think we can grow these resources and give the market another reason to buy our stock as we demonstrate that there's more gold in the ground in our projects.
Perfect. Sounds good. We will have another call soon and see what you have done in the meantime. And for now, I wish you the best of luck, best of success, and talking again to you soon. Looking forward to that.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.